the guy that called us a fraud. Ask Alabama if we're a fraud. Was his name Colin Cowherd? Ask him, I don't, never met him, don't know him. Ask him if we're Alabama if we're a fraud. Ask Ohio State if we're a fraud. Ask Oklahoma if we're a fraud. The only fraud is that guy, because he didn't do his homework. I hope y'all print that.
Colin, I stopped everything I was doing at 9 a.m. Pacific time because I wanted to see the beginning of your show. I expected to see this grand apology to Dabo and the Clemson Nation. I didn't get it. Do you owe these guys an apology?
No, I owe him and my audience honesty, and I honestly thought for 2 months Clemson was a very average team. You can look at the schedule. There were 7 games they could have lost. Historically speaking, the national champ blows out about 9 of its 11 opponents. But I do owe them honesty, and honestly, I was wrong. But I don't apologize for strong opinions. What I said in the time, I strongly believed. This football team underachieved for
fraud, overvalued, maybe.
Oh, now you're parsing my words.
Of course, that's what he's doing. Overvalued is big fraud, man. That hurts.
Well, you know what? Words sometimes I'm rough. I'm like a pass rusher. I'm tough to block, my man. Sometimes I hit a little hard.
Listen, they're the national champions. You weren't wrong for a month and a half.
Overvalued.
Troy almost beat them. NC State had a field goal.
Had them beat.
Hey. Listen, they're one missed field goal away from not even being in the playoff. Now, having said that, they had the highest ceiling in college football.
You said that all year.
And they played great when it mattered most. They constantly played to their level of competition, whether it was Pitt or Troy or NC State or Alabama or Ohio State, and that's what we saw last night.
Fraud was disingenuous. I think that's probably what hurts.
Does that feel personal?
It feels personal, and you didn't have to go there. And from that standpoint, that's probably where he was coming from. But I wish he would have taken the high road on it, because it was just not necessary for him to call you out. He could have just said, hey, a reporter out there thought we were frauds. Well, I'm sure he feels bad about that now. I just don't think a guy in his stature needs to call you out. Success would have been the greatest form of revenge.
Sure.
I will say this, though. Coaches always say, we don't listen to the media. They've all got rabbit ears, right?
No, and they do. They need the material in their locker room.
Sure.
And here's where I will agree with Steve in defending you. In this, I love Dabo Swinney. And before he made his comments about you, I tweeted out, man, I love Dabo. Because I do. I love everything he represents, his story, coming from where he did, the way religion plays a role in his coaching and his life. I love it all. He could have stayed more consistent by not taking a shot at you. He's making all these great statements on the field that represent the values that he says he holds, and then he gets in that press conference and wants to do a tap dance on a guy who he needs to be smart enough to go, you're doing a radio show. Right. He's coaching a football team. Yeah. If you had just said overvalued, there would have been no problem. Everything you said was true.
I think you bought stock in the herd. He's an investor, because that was great for publicity. Listen, right? I mean, Clay Travis was texting you. He's like, how do I get a coach to call me a fraud? He wants people like that, you know?